He becomes the 5th quarterback in his rookie season to start a conference championship game. The other 4 did not win. Sean King did not win. Joe Flacco, Ben Roethlisberger, and Mark Sanchez. So it's not enough to be a curse, but it's really, there's no pattern to those 4 guys, I'd say, other than they all had probably good defenses. But 2 of them went on to have.
I'd say great defenses. Tampa, probably the best defense in the league.
Steelers defense, Jerome Harrison.
Might even have been a little before. They were elite. Flacco's elite. Who was the other guy?
Sanchez. Did you say
elite? Yeah.
Good. 2 of those guys would go on to win championships. 2 of them would not.
And only one, you'd say, became a great player.
Yeah, Ben became great. Flacco had a hell of a career. Flacco being in the conference championship game as a rookie was indicative of what was about to come for him.
Yeah. Flacco's, doesn't it feel like he's got a couple more years left too? Does he have an 18-year career when it's all said and done?
Because when Robert Saleh told the media today we really want a veteran quarterback, wouldn't Flacco be like, well, what are you talking about, Robert? You got one.
I think they mean Rodgers.
Oh.
Listen, all 4 of those guys. Now, Ben became one of the great playmakers the NFL has ever seen. And when Flacco won the Super Bowl, he had one of the great playoff stretches in league history, a lot like some of Eli's runs in the playoffs. I heard Hasselbeck, not the Seattle one, but the shittier one, on with Russillo. And he was like, I called his game against Notre Dame years ago, a bowl game. And one thing you hear a lot now is Purdy is just like game managing, a lot like those players. Just historically, a young player on a really good team, just don't crash the car. And he's like, when I watch, I don't necessarily see that. Like, this guy's playmaking. I think what game management is what Jimmy Garoppolo was doing. And any 49er fan would tell you, this guy is dramatically better than Jimmy. So what Jimmy was doing actually fits like what Sanchez and Sean King and rookie Roethlisberger and rookie Flacco just kind of steer it. And most of the time, it's very hard to win that way. That's why they all lost in this game. Because ultimately, I'm going to need you to throw a couple touchdowns. And I will say this about Purdy. He does have the capability of doing that. Like, if you told me the 49ers had got here and it looked the same, obviously the games, they would not have scored the 30 points for like that 7-game stretch with Jimmy Garoppolo. But Jimmy Garoppolo starting this game, I would have little confidence they could win this game. I'm confident, and I think they're going to win because, I'm going to pick them. I guess I'm confident they have a chance to win because I think Purdy can make some plays in the passing game, which Jimmy couldn't.
Game management means you don't make plays off script. But here's the thing about game managers. They also, because they are not the most talented, they also miss, like, you don't hit 100% of your layups with game managers because game managers aren't, as it turns out, consistent enough to do that. Like,
not all game managers are the same, right?
No, but I think the problem with game managers is not always that they're not elite talents and they don't make the extra plays. Is that by nature, by definition of your game manager, you're limited, which means you will miss some layups. You will miss some open jumpers. You will. It's just that becomes the problem with a game manager, is that the coach can scheme stuff and the game manager won't hit them all because he's not good enough. That's why he's a game manager, right? But the way we use the definition really is game managers don't make plays outside of whatever it was called. That's with any consistency.
And I would say they don't have the capability for the most part of doing like explosive things.
Yeah, downfield throws, which Brock, again, the Niners have not become a quick strike offense with Brock Purdy.
But they have had quick strike plays that have been much more explosive, I feel, than Jimmy in terms of not a guy breaking a tackle, but like they had a play last game, like a quick pump fake, hit Kittle down the seam on the right side. Like they have more explosive plays in the pass game with Brock Purdy.
Let me ask you this. What do you think, if you had to pick one big difference between Purdy and Garoppolo, what is it?
I would say the ability to ad-lib with his feet to keep play alive that ends up leading to a throw.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there's multiple right answers. My thought was going to be he doesn't when he properly identifies the open guy, he hits him for the most part. Right. So like when Shanahan schemes open that slant, I don't know, Jimmy might just throw it too high. Where for the most part, Brock has just hit that. When Brock knows the throw, he hits the throw, I would say.
I feel like Jimmy's more. I feel Jimmy's not as accurate as Brock on a lot of the.
Yeah, that's a simpler way of saying it too. I think.
I think Brock, this version, the guy we've seen through 7 games, is just a better player. In a vacuum, in the context of the team, however you want to say it, is just a better player.
Like why? Like what is he better at?
Well, he's definitely more athletic.
Yep.
Which, no matter what,
by the way, is why he's better than why right now you would take him. Like it's one of the things he does better than Mac Jones, right?
For sure. When you're more athletic, you can just keep a play alive. And like Jimmy just struggled with keeping a play alive. And when he somehow pulled it out of his ass, a lot of times it led to disaster. I would say so far with Brock, his throwaway, something Jimmy historically did not do. Like 3 career throwaways or whatever. He had 3 this year. It was a disaster. He would not throw the ball away. Brock throws the ball away, 1. And 2, when he does throw the ball down the field, he has hit a lot of big plays. Honestly, in the red zone, he's thrown touchdowns on broken plays. Some turns out to be dump off after he runs around for 5 seconds. Others hitting Kittle in the back. He has just hit a lot of ad-lib plays. Like one of the knocks on Cousins, another Shanahan guy, like cannot ad-lib. I think in theory he would love to be able. He physically is incapable because he can't keep plays alive with his feet. Dak can
Which
ad-lib.
is why I put Dak ahead of Kirk.
But you would watch Dak sometimes within the pocket makes poor mistakes.
Yeah, I know. God, what an awful ongoing debate that never dies. Cousins or Dak.
Because they both make a combined like $80 million.
And just don't win big games.
No. But if you are, and here's the thing, both of them kind of get screwed from the sense that they don't have good coaches. Well, maybe Kevin O'Connell turns out to be good. He fired Harbaugh's old guy, Ed Donatel, pretty quick. It's like, wait, this guy was good enough to be your defensive coordinator. A year in, you just realize he sucks. Anytime you're just constantly going through coaches.
Too.
Who?
Although I guess that guy, Mike McDaniel, but that guy had been in Miami.
I think it's a little different when I'm going to hire this guy than like, hey, this guy was good with Flores. You got to keep him. It's like, okay, I'll take the job.
Right.
That lost my train of thought on just the Purdy thing. Oh, back to those 2 quarterbacks. If you are going to pay a guy $35-40 million and he's never going to win you a second round playoff game, while that sucks, as long as you go to the playoffs every year, things could be a lot worse. And I think both of them benefit from, being in pretty stable organizations in terms of talent around them. And that is like Brock is never, it's impossible unless his arm comes in one off season with just like, did he add 5 miles an hour to his throwing? Is never going to be a top 5 quarterback. But as long as Kyle is around and the infrastructure is there with John and Adam and their ability to it was that way with Bill and Tom for all the random guys around them. This thing is more on Brock, can have success because of the guys around him.
I say he maximizes the guys around him better.
Yeah.
Which is why Kyle.
But I just mean long term, like he can just become a sustainable player because of the infrastructure he's going to have around him.
Yeah, and you would say
Kyle's never paying him $40 million a year.
Well, but that's the way it works when you win a lot of games with a quarterback. You have to make a decision, because somebody else will.
And you keep drafting 7th round players. So.
Yeah, I mean that's the other thing is at this point there are limitations to his game for sure, but I just trying to decide what Brock Purdy can't do. I would say so far he's done a lot of things that people would say he can't do. So you got to be open-minded to the possibility that he can. It turns out 5 years from now, he can do some things that we didn't know he could do.
Well, a lot of people tagged me in that. Did you see the Steve Smith rant? Steve Smith Sr. about Zach Wilson. And,
I didn't think it was
Brock Purdy
Jr.
I think there's just so many Steve Smiths, and it was basically like Brock Purdy in 7 games proved he could do so much more than Zach Wilson in 2 years. Steve Smith Sr. I think he might be an undrafted free agent, but he's if anything he's like a 6th or 7th round pick. But I'm pretty sure he's an undrafted free agent. that they have such a, those guys have animosity for high picks that can't play and then keep getting chances. All late round picks that become studs always like, and I get it. It pisses them off. And it's basic math. I mean, Brock Purdy, the reason everyone just naturally when you're the 7th round pick, but also the 49ers, they didn't invest anything in him. They literally gave him $77,000. Zach Wilson got a $26 million signing bonus.
Ward got more at Washington State.
Yeah, and Zach Wilson's $35 million guaranteed. So the reason the high picks get more chances is because they get more money invested. This is business 101.
3rd round for Steve Smith.
Okay, so he was higher than I thought. So his is just simply like he just hates scrubs. And I do too. You and I have worked around people that we thought got paid too much. We're like, what is going on here? And it's just a natural human reaction in any industry. But like the reason people like also Brock's pretty unprecedented. I mean, it's very, very unprecedented.
Wait, I'm sorry, I'm not following. What was Steve's rant? He was ranting. Which side of that was Steve Smith on? What was his?
Like Zach Wilson sucks. Brock Purdy's a stud. Why are we keep talking about how like questioning all these Brock Purdy things? If Brock Purdy was basically like if Brock Purdy was not even the 1st round pick, like a top 50 pick, everyone would be like, we knew it. This guy, but it's all the opposite. Like, are we sure? Is this really going to last? And he clearly hates Zach Wilson. Like everyone keeps making all these excuses and they keep trying. It's true. And the reason if Brock Purdy had been Trey Lance and he was doing this, everyone would be like, what is this fucking Joe Montana?
100%.
But that's just the way it works.
But part of it is like we've been in the Trey Lance talking business for a while.
But he was literally the 3rd pick, right?
Yeah, I'm just but part of it is his skill set. His physical skills that we think he possesses, right? Even though I don't think he throws a great deep ball, but
or is that fast?
Every podcast becomes somehow about Trey Lance. We don't have to decide today if Brock Purdy is going to be good in 5 years, right? We look at the guys we talked about to start this part of the conversation. 4 rookies have done this. One of them turned out to be a Hall of Famer. Two of them turned out to be Super Bowl champs. 2 of the 4 came out to be Super Bowl champs. 2 of the other 4, we're not long-term. We're not franchise QBs. They were not franchise quarterbacks. But maybe, there are people who will tell you like, God, if Sanchez had just been in the right spot, he could have been. Sean King won 10 games the next year, but that was that. Things
all had great defenses on those teams.
All had great defenses. And I think your point earlier was Brock's numbers this year have been different than what those guys did offensively. But the bottom line is we don't know. We don't know what Brock Purdy will be 5 years from now. We just don't. And if he turns out to be great 5 years from now, we'll say we knew it from the start. And if he turns out not to be, people say, he only played 7 games. We just don't know.
But if he plays well in this game on the road in this environment and throws several touchdowns,
yeah.
1, it's never happened before in league history. And 2, it'll be something like you could be a really good player, right? Or a highly paid player. Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins. Let's just think of some of the guys in the NFC. If they, let's say the Lions had made the playoffs. Jared Goff, who started a bunch of big games and gone in and throw several touchdowns as his team won. That'd be like a historic victory for that guy. Right? That would be something you could never, ever belittle. You would never be able to take that away from him. If he goes in now, if he has a Jimmy Garoppolo game, which is impossible, where you just only throw 8, like it's not possible in this game to only have 8 passes. But if he has a game where he throws several touchdowns and plays well, potentially outplays Jalen, which, like you said, is possible given how Jalen has played against top defenses. Like, there's no more arguing this. 'Cause 1, he's going to be the quarterback next year, so there's no arguing that. And 2, it's like this guy's the games he played this year, he was awesome. Now, big picture, there's still a lot to be earned. How they keep this team together long term, we'll see. But like what we saw, he was fucking sweet. Better than Dak, better than Cousins. Like in his conference too. He does not have Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Lamar. Hell, even Deshaun, who makes $230 million. Like his conference is not the same. So beside he's seeing the best quarterback in his conference.
Yeah.
He saw arguably the second best in Dak, and he outplayed him.
I was thinking about this
The
today.
conference has shitty quarterbacks, guy. That's one thing that has going for him. Marino, Elway, and Montana aren't in his division.
Well, if he forget about
Stafford could come back, but Stafford had 50 fucking interceptions this year.
Yeah, I mean, if Ann's been hurt a lot, really,
he's going to retire.
Really, 5 years from now doesn't matter, right? To your point, if the Niners win on Sunday, I was thinking about this today. Like, how could you overstate how crazy it is that Brock Purdy quarterbacks the 49ers to a Super Bowl appearance? You know, every day is filled with people making incredible statements about how this is the greatest thing since X. We do it. I do it. You do it. Sometimes, but Brock Purdy being the last pick of the draft, leading a team to a Super, or quarterbacking a team to a Super Bowl, I don't think you can overstate how insane it is. Like, to use the old cliche, if you made a movie with that plot, it would feel not believable. Sports gives us stuff like that all the time. But even in sports that gives us stuff like that all the time, right? This would be on and up. This would be one of the wildest sports stories that we've witnessed. It already kind of is, but
one major difference to those 4 quarterbacks that we listed, the rookie quarterbacks that started. Obviously, Mark Sanchez was the 5th pick in the draft. Joe Flacco was the 18th pick in the draft. Roethlisberger was the 11th pick in the draft. I had to Google Sean King because I was like, maybe he was a little later.
Tulane?
He was later. Tulane was still the 50th pick in the draft.
Wow.
So the latest pick of that 4 was Sean King at 50, and the other 3 were all top 18, 11, and 5. So Purdy has nothing in common. Like, if you're a second-round pick, it's not that crazy if you end up playing a lot as a rookie. It's insane to play as a rookie as a 7th-round pick on a really good team, and then on top of doing this. So he, besides just being a rookie, has nothing in common with all these guys that were good prospects, right? The 3 of them were viewed as like big-time prospects, first-rounders. You draft a guy in the first round of quarterback, he's your starting quarterback. That's what this guy's story is. Just
part of it. Like, Sanchez is not huge. The other 3 guys are big guys, physically tall, large.
Sean King's not tall.
He's not tall. He's just big.
He put on a lot of weight for his career. But he was 220 coming out. He was big in even coming out of college.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, what I've seen,
how tall is
he? 6 feet even.
Oh, okay.
I'd say he's about 6 feet 3 bills. Feels like when I've seen videos of him talking. Am I thinking about the right Sean King? Pretty big now.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah.
He's gone on every local radio station this week, but in America.
Purdy truly is. Like, if Purdy had been their 2nd-round pick, then he'd just fit in this mold. Like, I don't put him in this mold. He was drafted hundreds of picks later than these guys.
So again, answer my question. Like, how do you even if he goes to the Super Bowl this year, how do you even put that in the context of the craziest things we've seen in sports? It's very hard to put it.
It's right up there.
Yeah, it's up there. And sports there's a million crazy things that have happened.
Well, what makes Brady truly unique, right, is the 6th-round pick. If Tom Brady had Wally pipped,
if Brady had been a number 1 pick, it's still,
he became the greatest player. Like, Michael Jordan was the 3rd overall pick. But Tom Brady being a 6th-round pick and ultimately taking out a guy who was, I think, the highest paid guy in the league at the time, or one of them, in Drew Bledsoe. Yeah. Like, the way his story started,
right?
People by about 2007 on, no, you're not even talking about that anymore. But like those first couple series, like, how are they doing this with this 6th-round pick? That's the crazy part. And this is back to Steve Smith. Steve, where you are drafted, fair or not, is the way it's just that determines the rollout of your career. Like that is your entrance into the league. At rookie minicamp, first thing you go is like, where's a 1st-rounder? You don't go, where's that sweet undrafted free agent? I mean, some of the nerds do. I don't. I go, where's the 1st-rounder?
That's the irony with Shanahan is he gives his undrafted quarterback as much a look as he gives his 1st-round quarterback, but most coaches don't.
Yeah. It took a level of luck to come. Right.
Yeah,
because for a large part of the Purdy story is when Jimmy wasn't a known option, even though they were clearly thinking and talking to him, but they didn't know if they were going to be able to keep him. Purdy was in a backup quarterback battle, where if Jimmy had just been on the team to start training camp, however him and Trey were going to figure each other out, I think battling for third, you're not quite on the same wavelength with the coach/OC as he was given. I think he got an opportunity to kind of assert himself in front of the head man who calls the plays because Jimmy Garoppolo was just working on the side, and he was actually got to battle for the second job.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if we're here if he's battling for the third job.
But there are a lot of teams where the 7th round pick gets to battle for the backup job.
Usually not good ones.
But I'm just like, I think more often than not, your backup quarterback.
True. Yeah, I agree.
So much better than your 7th. Yeah, it's just Jimmy Garoppolo. Usually, that level of player is not your backup quarterback.
True. It's Chad Henne.
Yeah, who I don't know if they would let anybody beat him out, but
you know who the Bengals backup quarterback is? Because I was thinking, like, I know all the backup quarterbacks.
John Kitna.
You'll never get it.
Really? Is it like it was like the guy that played for? It was like one of the Packers' third stringer last year. That guy.
I mean, it's you've heard the name, but it's just not gonna. It's not gonna pop like a Flacco or Chase Daniel or something.
Is it like a Cooper Rush type?
Yeah, I would say it's in that vein. Yeah.
Is it the guy that played for the Packers?
No, he's been on the Bengals now for a couple years.
College?
Arkansas. I'm pretty sure he was a transfer.
Yeah, who?
Brandon Allen.
Yeah. Oh, I feel like I've seen him in the Bengals uniform.
Would have played a little the year, he tore his ACL.
Somebody said mallet.
I guess he wasn't a transfer, was Arkansas the whole time.
Tyler Bray.
The SEC got a lot cooler the last post. He left at 15. It feels like they've had a more national run the last 6-7 years than that first half of the season.
Yeah. Leach helped.
Yeah.
Lane.
It'd be hard to be a starting quarterback for several years in the SEC the last 5 years and not like, whoa, yeah, I remember him.
For a run, they had it was just like Big Ten quarterbacks.
Same thing, exactly.
Like Wisconsin's had, outside of Russ, it feels like the same guy. When you see a Wisconsin guy and they're like, oh yeah, Mertz, man, he's a hot prospect. You're like, no way. This guy's been here 7 years. Like, no, he's young. Why does every Wisconsin, Iowa quarterback feel old?
Mertz, Hurt, Schmertz, it's just a rotation of the same look.
It's a bunch of Graham Mertz looking guys.
I'm telling you, he was a 5-star from New Jersey, had a connection with Paul's cousin. Like, yeah, let me know. The sweet guy's going to be playing at Ohio State.
It immediately stops looking like a 5-star.
Ohio State's going to have a guy that throws 50 touchdowns. Harbaugh will have some overachiever. The rest of you guys all got the same quarterback.
It feels like Harbaugh gets underachievers.
I don't know what Harbaugh's doing.